Everyone uses apps today. Mobile money, riding hail apps, delivery services, online shopping. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what does it take to build one of these companies in Africa? Because from the outside, techs look exciting. We see startup founders raising money, big company launches, innovation conferences, people talking about Africa in the future. But behind all that hype, there's another reality people don't always talk about. Today, we're unpacking the real story behind building tech companies in Africa. Welcome to Through Archives podcasts, conversations beyond thoughts. Today, we go behind the buzzwords to unpack what it really means to build in Africa, from finding challenges, talent gaps, to unique customer behaviors and infrastructure realities. This conversation breaks things down in a way even not a tech-savvy person. There win, struggle, and people what don't usually tell. In a nutshell, we should say, what is a tech company? A tech company is simply a business that uses software to solve problems. It could be a mobile money platform, a riding hail app, an online marketplace, a delivery service, a digital healthcare platform. Technology is no longer a luxury. For many people, a part of survival, an integral part, convenience, and even opportunity. And that's why Africa tech industry has attracted so much attention over the last few years.
Africa's fintech sector has seen remarkable growth over the past decade. It's now a key pillar of Africa's tech economy, reshaping how people access and use financial services. According to a McKinsey report, fintech revenue in Africa will reach $47 billion by 2028, a sign of just how fast the ecosystem is expanding. One standout in this momentum is Optasia, an AI-powered fintech firm that made a successful debut on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in November.
The central bank's policies are not really that clear. You can see even the problems of internet access can still be inconsistent. Data can be really expensive. Many users still rely on all the devices, though right now we're really moving out to the smartphone world. In many parts of African countries, most of the time, innovation moves a little bit faster than the government system, policies, government laws, which really creates uncertainty for startups and founders. I would assume most of the founders of these companies, they would ask themselves, in some countries, your biggest problem isn't really the competition itself. The biggest problem is will the government body even allow this to work?
Every single market that you operate in across the African continent has its own government laws, government policies that you have to work around and work with.
A platform, there are really big realities because ideas in itself aren't easy, but execution is even more hard. Actually, few of them can really sustain. And funding itself is not easy. There are fewer local investors. Many of all these founders use personal income. And also the reality is that skilled developers are limited. They are very in high demand and retaining talent is really tough, especially in African markets. Customers do behave differently. So the adoption to technology does take a longer time. That really slow pace the growth. The growth is really very meaningful and substantial. Nowadays, social media has entrepreneurship look glamorous, but behind the scenes, many founders are dealing not only with burnout, the financial pressures, investors' expectation, and sometimes even self-doubt. In Africa, there's often less room for failure. Losing a business can mean you're going to lose your savings, the trust from the investors, but the public also, and your own stability. But despite all of that, people do still keep this platform because they can see untapped potential in this market. That's why the reasons is what makes African innovation really powerful. Let's talk in terms of opportunity. I would say there is massive opportunity in African tech because many industries are really evolving, especially the financial industry, the healthcare industry. So there is huge untapped market. There is room for innovation. And so you can see that the future belongs to people who deeply understand, especially the platform that establish these companies. They really need to understand, first of all, the culture, the local problems, and local behavior. The goal isn't to copy another company from somewhere else, but rather should be to create solutions that make sense to African reality. That's why I applaud Nala fintech company was established by Benjamin Rodriguez. He said when he established Nala, it was from the African challenges and their perspective in what they want in terms of solving money problem. So you can see building a tech company in Africa, it is not about coding itself, but understanding the people, culture, and everyday reality. The challenges circle back to Nala when he said he faced a lot of challenges in the process of establishing Nala here in Tanzania. Why? Because in Tanzania, a lot of government policies and laws are very tightening and unclear in making sure that the startup companies establish themselves. In East Africa, Kenya is much more supportive than in Tanzania in getting, for example, the approval, the licensing from central bank and other government bodies. In technology-wise, in East Africa, Kenya is number one, Uganda is number two, in number three is Rwanda, and number four is Tanzania. You can see that we are at the bottom of the barrel. He said in one of his interviews that in Tanzania, it took him 6 months to a year for him to get the licensing. At the same time, Tanzania Communication Regulation Authority takes 1% of revenue. Also, the Bank of Tanzania is taking its percentage. Also, there are banks who they work with in integrating the system. They also want a cut of that. So it either for them to cover up these expenses, they should come from their own pocket, or they take all of that expense into the consumer. He has to bear it all. But he said in Kenya, it took him only 1 month to get licensing and get business to run. In UK, it only took him 2 weeks to do so. And I would say one of the biggest problems that is faced in Tanzania, a lot of government websites are so bad and they keep on crashing out daily and so inconsistent. But that on, there is massive opportunity in African tech because many companies are still, they say they're still evolving. Like a few days ago, I read on a magazine that a company called Black Swan in Tanzania has get its license, which was established by a guy called Derek Kazimoto, which allows using technology in making sure that Africans do get credits and loans, making sure that by using AI in order to make all the process online. In all, building tech in Africa is about navigating this infrastructure and uncertainty all at once. That's why I say most of the African countries' government they really need to roll out their policies, their laws and regulations, especially for the central banks, monetary regulatory system, in order to ease up the regulation, in order to allow the founders, the startup companies, because the talent it is there, and most of the time they do want to establish this kind of platforms, even locally. But the problem comes with this type of government policies. There is a lot of process out and vetting the process is kind of long policies in which they need to be implemented. My perspective or suggestion is sometimes the government involved in allowing the tech companies to innovate and operate in the country, maybe for a year or two, to allow these platforms to run companies, generate revenue, able to make profit. Then after 2 to 3 years, they can start paying up these regulatory bodies. This will allow a lot of talent and developers and this platform to be in the market and allow change and development. While the world focuses on success stories, there are thousands of people behind the scenes trying to build every day. That's why maybe the real story isn't just about the hype, the real story is about the resilience behind it. On that note, thank you for listening to Through Aka's podcast. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and let your thoughts become conversation.